Well, we're in this series called wisDUMB, and as you've already guessed, we're talking today about the power of words. Before I talk to you about that, I want to say hey to all my friends out at Madras and to those of you out at Northgate. Hey, how you doing? Today, we are so glad that you're at those campuses and helping us reach the community out in that area. For those of you joining in online, we're really glad that you joined in as well and hope you'll come and be a part of one of our services one day. As I already said, we're in this series called wisDUMB, and what we're talking about today is the power of our words. And this whole series has been us just studying together through the book of Proverbs, which is in the older part of the Bible, and taking God's wisdom and applying it to different parts of our lives. Now, with regard to our words, almost all of us can think about a time, probably not in the too distant future, maybe even today, where you said something that just wasn't too smart. I can think back a while back when I was a good bit younger. Becky and I are in a restaurant, and I love to talk to people, and so I'm engaging with the waitress, and I'm talking to her, and we're having fun, and we're joking back and forth. And in the middle of it, she brings our drinks, and I say to her, "Hey, when's your baby due?" Yeah, there was no baby. You probably already guessed that. I'm confident she spit in my food, but I ate it anyway. Think about another time that when our church was just one church in one location. We were actually portable at a high school, and one of the people had a baby, and they came to church for the first time with their baby, and so I'm seeing the baby, and I'm commenting on the baby, and I noticed the baby has something on its eye, and its eye's closed, and I say, "Oh, your baby's got something in its eyes closed," and the mom goes, "No, he was born without an eye." Yeah, they don't come to church with us anymore. I could go on and on about stupid things I've said over the course of my life, but who cares about that? Almost all of us have said things that people laugh about them, they're funny in the moment, but then there are other things that aren't so funny, are they? I mean, all of us, our self-esteem, good and bad, has been shaped by the words that get said to us, the words we wind up saying in our head to ourselves. A lot of us, you went into first grade and you felt great about yourself because your parents had built you up, and by the time you got into middle school, you felt like a total loser just because of words that some person sort of carelessly said to you. All of us have these times where people have just torn us down with their words. I can think about a couple of guys who got married, and after 5 or 6 years of living with an angry, derisive kind of wife, these guys felt like total losers, like they weren't smart at all. Now, their IQ hadn't changed. They weren't any less talented than they had been. It's just that when you live with somebody that's really loose with their words, it's dangerous. It's one of the things that makes it so challenging, I think, at parenting. I think back when my parents were raising me, most of the comments I remember that are stuck in my head that I still hear my parents say to me are those offhand comments that I bet they didn't really think through, and I bet when I think about it, they probably didn't even mean it all the way, but they're the ones that I carry around, and the words where they said to me, "Now, Ed, always remember." I can't remember anything they said after always remember. I don't even know what that was, but those offhand comments said in a moment, those I carry around with me. I mean, random remarks said in a moment, they tend to wind up wounding us because say the right words or the wrong words in the right moment, they wind up sticking in our heads. I mean, almost all of us have a memory where somebody we trusted, they told us something, and we believed it to be the truth, and we acted on it as if it was the truth, and we find out that they had been lying to us. In fact, that's why some of us have a hard time trusting people today. Again, I think that almost all of us, I don't have to talk too much about the power that words have on us negatively. I think all of us are aware of the power of how words have shaped us. We know how what other people have said to us have had an impact on us. The thing I notice, though, is most of us aren't as keenly aware of the power that our words have when they're going the other way. So today, we want to look in this book of Proverbs where we get God's wisdom, and we want to get God's wisdom of how we can make better decisions with our words. And the thing that I'm going to teach you today is something that I've been working on at least for the last 3 years or so. In fact, if you go in my office, there's a list of these written in my handwriting I've had plastered on the wall of my office for the last several years as I try to learn to apply these to my life. When Solomon begins to talk to us about the power of words, it really shouldn't come as any shock to you that the first thing he says, in fact, the first thing he says is so simple and so straightforward, it'll make total sense to you. It's really, really simple to understand and not so easy for some of us to do. And to get at this, the way I want to get at this is I want you to turn to the person next to you, and what I want you to do is I want you to tell them real quick how many words you think the average person uses in a day. Now, there's been a long debate between the number of men use and the number of women use, and we won't get into that debate because I personally don't think it's a gender thing. I think it's a personality thing. So let's just take the average person across the board. What's the average number of words that a person uses in a day? Turn to the person next to you and give them a number. Okay, if you said somewhere around 10,000, then you're right. 10,000, they tell us about the average number of words. Were you close? That sounds like a lot, doesn't it? I mean, 10,000 words sounds like a tremendous amount. Well, Solomon, who wrote the book of Proverbs, his first piece of advice for us when it comes to wisdom in our words is, if you want to do better at not living in your wisdom, but you want to live in the wisdom of God, then the first thing you ought to do is try to use fewer words. Proverbs 10:19 says, "Too much talk leads to sin. Be sensible, keep your mouth shut." Proverbs 21:23, "Watch your tongue, keep your mouth shut, and you will stay out of trouble." And then this one's one of my favorites, Proverbs 17:28, "Even a foolish person seems wise when he keeps his mouth shut." So next time you're in a group of people, and if you just sit there and rub your chin and go, a lot, people walk away going, that is really one smart guy. In fact, I heard a guy talking about being in a leadership circle where they had hired an outside consultant to talk about how to do better in their leadership group because the group was a little bit dysfunctional, and he sat and watched them for a while, and then he talked to them about the difference between people in all groups and how they need to deal with that leadership-wise. He said that in every group of people, there are fast talkers. Those are the people that when you ask a question, they immediately have an answer, they immediately give you input, they immediately have something to say. And then there are slow talkers. And slow talkers are just as smart, they have just as much input they want to give, they're just as passionate sometimes about their beliefs on a certain issue, but they're really slow on pulling the trigger. And what happens too often is slow talkers wind up getting dominated by the fast talkers. You might have noticed this in your connection group or around your family dinner table or at a family reunion or something like that. And he said, the real challenge of leadership is to try to contain, not silence, but contain the fast talkers and to draw out the slow talkers. So what I want to try to do as a way of serving us this morning, since it's just us sort of doing this today, I want to ask you just by show of hands to sort of identify yourself. So fast talkers, see, some of you probably already raised your hand. I didn't even tell you to do it. You already raised your hand because you're fast. Fast talkers, why don't you just identify yourself by raising your hand? It's legal at this point if you think somebody's getting it wrong to sort of nudge them with their ribs to get them to get their hand up. Okay, now slow talkers, listen really closely to me. I'm going to give you just a few seconds because I don't want to sneak up on you and surprise you. I'm going to give you just a few seconds to understand what we're doing here. I want to ask you to extend your hand into the air, and I want you to identify yourself as being a slow talker. So here we go, just a few more seconds. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Are you a slow talker? Raise your hand. Okay? Now, I want to talk to you a second, particularly you fast talkers. I'm not a slow talker. I'm just demonstrating there. I want to talk to the fast talkers because you're my people. I'm speaking to you as one of you. And it's like there's wisdom in the book of Proverbs written especially for us. Proverbs 15:28 is probably addressed to us. It says, "Wise people think carefully before speaking." Quick talkers, God loves you. God loves us. And everybody else is really trying. We need to really be conscious of thinking before we talk. So maybe you need to ask a trusted friend when you're in connection group or you're in a setting or you're in a leadership kind of role. Maybe you need to ask a trusted friend, am I talking too much? Am I dominating things here? And maybe they'll have the courage to tell you the truth, and and you'll learn something. Talk a little bit less, okay? Now, slow talkers, let me say something to you. There's wisdom for you as well. Your voice needs to be heard, particularly in leadership settings. I mean, you're just as wise as everyone else. We need your input. We need to hear what you have to say. In fact, let me read this verse to you from Proverbs 31:18. It says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak up for themselves. Ensure justice for those being crushed." Sometimes, I think slow talkers just need to remind themselves that there's often a lot at stake, and maybe God has given you a sense of what needs to happen, but the rest of us need to hear what you have to say. So instead of just sitting back and thinking you're being mannerly, jump in there and let us hear what you have to say on a topic. Parents and other people who lead discussions, particularly for those of you who lead connection groups or serving teams around here, you're going to have to work to try to pipe down the quick talkers a little bit. And even if you have to pull them aside and give them a little talk, I bet, in fact, a lot of you who are leaders in connection groups, you yourself are quick talkers, so maybe you need not be the first one to answer. And draw out the slow talkers. Let them have something to say as well. So Proverbs starts by saying, here's the wisdom when it comes to words. If you want to be wise in how you use your words and make better decisions, let your words be few. Now, if you thought that one was obvious, then number 2 is even going to be more so. Proverbs says not only should your words be few, but they need to be true. Proverbs 12:22. God detests lying lips. He delights in those who tell the truth. Or Proverbs 25:18. Telling lies about others is as harmful as hitting them with an axe, wounding them with a sword, or shooting them with a sharp arrow. I mean, let's just face it. God doesn't have anything good to say about liars or about lying. God detests lying lips. In fact, there's so much talk in our day about what the Bible has to say about sexual sin and all those kind of things. You just need to know that the same verses that talk about sexual sin and what God thinks about all of that, almost all of those verses also contain the word liars. How God feels about people who lie. Same kind of thoughts. God cannot stand the way we talk to each other when we don't tell the truth. And if Solomon, the writer of these Proverbs, were standing here today, he would make sure that he'd say to us, look, whatever words come out of your mouth, they need to be true. They need to be totally true. Even if you have to say something to the boss that the boss doesn't want to hear. Even if you need to go back to a friend and you need to say it again. If the word is true, then your friends need to hear the truth and they need to hear it from you. Mention it again. When you say something, make sure that every word you say is true. And parents, I'll just say, all the research shows that lying starts really pretty early. That it's one of those things that the way that we talk, lying and deceiving each other, it begins in children pretty young. And it's something that gets worked into us. And we have to root it out and help them. In fact, one of my kids had a real problem with not telling the truth. Eventually, the point that when he was late elementary, early middle school, we had to get to the point where we said, look, you cannot speak out loud until you write down what you're going to say. You need to look at what it is, and then you need to say it. And you're going to be accountable for what you say because words mean things. Parents, we have to work to help our kids break this habit of deceiving. Solomon would say, you also got to protect yourself from liars. Don't hire a liar. If you find out that you've got one on your team and they can't change their ways, then you need to fire them. Don't date them. And if you find out when you're dating that the person you're dating is loose with the truth, certainly don't marry them. Don't do business with them. Don't golf with them for sure. They'll lie about their score and win all the time. Are we clear on this? God detests lying. When it comes to our words, wisdom begins with our words are few, our words are true. And the third thing Solomon would say is, let your words be gentle. Let them be gentle. Proverbs 15:1. A gentle answer deflects anger. Harsh words make tempers flare. Proverbs 15:4. Gentle words are a tree of life. So again, let your words be few. Let your words be true. Let your words be gentle. I've just found out the hard way. If I continue to use harsh, devaluing, anger-producing words, then what comes back at me is fairly predictable. Eventually, the temperature is going to rise in the room, and the decibels are going to go up, and pretty soon, I'm going to have myself a good old-fashioned kind of fight going on. And people are going to be talking about things, and they're going to be saying things at loud levels, and they're going to be shouting each other, and they're going to be hurling things, and things are going to get louder and louder and totally out of control. More shouting matches happen because it starts with somebody not being so gentle with their words. And when it gets to that level, the issue that you're shouting about doesn't get resolved, and pretty soon every party amps up a good bit, and people start getting more and more angry, and the volume level goes up until somebody reaches in their back pocket and they pull out the verbal grenade. You know, the word that you say that you know will wound the other person, and almost all of us in every relationship knows what it is. And at a certain point in time, if you get frustrated enough and you don't feel like you're being heard, you get louder and louder, and then the temptation comes in your head, and you pull the pin and you lob the grenade, and you let it go. And then the outcome's pretty predictable. Somebody gets up from the table, or somebody stomps out of the room, and silence ensues. Sometimes for days. Sometimes for weeks. Almost all of us have done it. We all know a word, or we know a phrase that when we say it, it just sends people over the edge. I wish I could tell you that I haven't done that, but that I just described to you, that has been a pattern in my life. And once you've done it, once you've lobbed the grenade, once you've pulled the pin, once you've thrown it in the middle of the argument, and once it's all exploded and everything gets really quiet, well, then what do? Well, I found that the only thing that you really can do is that you have to go to the person and you have to admit, yeah, I knew I had the grenade. And I pulled the pin. I don't even want to talk about what we were talking about. That's not the issue. The issue is me. The issue is that I pulled the pin and I intentionally lobbed it. And I want to say to you, I am so sorry. I knew what I was doing, and I'm sorry. I want to commit to you. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person. Have you ever started one of those? You ever been in on one of those? Any of you listening right now that realize that when we're done today, you need to go somebody and talk about a grenade you threw? Maybe some of you need to go into work on Monday and admit, hey, I pulled the pin. I threw the grenade. And I don't want to be that person. I want to back down from that. I don't want to be the guy throwing grenades all over the place. And what I've found is if you go to people and you're humble and you apologize and you don't try to ease it over and you don't try to rationalize, you apologize for the damage you did and how you wounded them and how you messed up with your words. In general, people are pretty understanding because the truth is, nobody has a perfect track record with their words. Almost everybody has a grenade that they carry around in their pocket. Almost all of us. I mean, if you go humbly and you say you're sorry, it gets us back on track. And it can get things back going the right way. Can I share with you something, the 3 words that I learned about 5 years ago that have really begun to change how I do in this area of being gentle? These are words that I've been using, again, over the last half decade or so, that when there's a problem, and particularly for me, I get really amped up when somebody's dropped the ball that they shouldn't drop, and there's a problem, and we've got to work something through where there's some rule that we all knew and we all agreed to, and it's been violated, and where everything in me wants to say, what were you thinking? Why would you do that? Why would you not do what we agreed to do? When I want to amp it up and get to the place that we're going to escalate and we're going to yell. About 5 years ago, I heard a guy named Bill Hybels, who's a great preacher, at a conference. He said, here's the 3 words that'll help you in those situations, and I'm beginning to learn to use them. Here are the 3 words. Help me understand. I wish I could tell you how I wish I had had those words in the parenting years. I think these 3 words are like parenting gold. Hey, Holly, help me understand why the data charges on your phone are $400 this month. Just help me understand. Hey, Stephen, help me understand why your clothes always wind up 7 feet from the basket that's in your closet. Why is that 7? Help me understand why that 7 feet is such a barrier. Hey, help me understand. You can use it at work where you say, hey, Fred, help me understand why deadlines always keep getting missed. Just help me understand what's going on with you. Hey, Amber, help me understand why the last 4 people that I've given you to manage, they all don't work for our apartment anymore. If you can keep the sarcasm out of the tone, if you can just be direct and honest, if you can sit and you can say, hey, help me understand, it lowers the volume level, it keeps you on a tone, it can begin a conversation, and some truth can get shared. Imagine if every political ad we had in our country, it was required to start with, hey, Senator Perdue, help me understand. Imagine if every parent conference, teacher conference began with someone saying, help me understand. Imagine if every parent and child talked to each other with just saying, hey, help me understand. There's some of you thinking right now, okay, we got it. Hey, help me understand why you keep going on and on. So I'll move on. So you let your words be few. You let your words be true. You let your words be gentle. And then the last one, let your words be life-giving. Proverbs 10:11. The words of the godly are a life-giving fountain. Isn't that beautiful? Proverbs 10:20. The words of the godly are like sterling silver. They're highly valuable. Proverbs 12:18. Words of the wise bring healing. Words can heal. You've seen it. I have too. Proverbs 16:24. Kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. Let your words be life-giving. Few, true, gentle, life-giving. Our words have so much power. And they really do have power to give life. Words can take a person that's needing comfort and can breathe hope into their life. Just words. Your words can do that. Words can take a failing heart and set a heart soaring. Words can strengthen the faint of heart and give them courage. Words can heal the deepest wounds. Words, through our worship, like we did together last Sunday night, words can make all of heaven smile and put hell on the run. Just our words. So Solomon says, look, whatever you do with your words, however you use your words, make sure that over time, as you continue to do God's wisdom, that an increasing percentage of your words bring life to the people that you're speaking to. Let your words be life-giving, soul-filling, heart-expanding. And all of us can do this, Solomon says. This is when your words reach the height of wisdom, when you use them to breathe life into people. You have this muscle in your mouth. You can do this. Use it to breathe life. And this part is so important, and I find that most of us are so ill-equipped to do it, that what I want to do is I want to ask us to practice just life-giving kind of phrases that we can say to each other. And what I'm hoping to do is I'm going to put these on the screen, and I'm going to say them out loud, and I'll say a little bit about them, but I want to give you some phrases that are just loaded with life, and that once we say them and we put them in the mind of people and we really mean them, I'm hoping if I can get them in your mind that they'll come back to your mind at the right time and you'll use them. So here we go. I'm going to put them on the screen, I'm going to say them, and I'm going to ask you to say them out loud, that you actually literally practice these words. Here are the first ones. I believe in you. Say that with me. I believe in you. Think of somebody in your life. Somebody that would have so much hope breathed into them. If you just walk over to them, you'd look them in the eye, and you'd say with great sincerity, hey, I believe in you. I deeply believe in you. Let's say that together again. I believe in you. Next one. I trust you. Say it. I trust you. We need to hear that from people. Who needs to hear it from you? I use that word all the time with my boys. I'd say, John, I trust you. Nathan, I trust you to do that. I trust you to lead that. I trust you to get that done. Nathan, I trust you. Benjamin, your mom and I trust you. We trust you. Words like that breathe something into people. They form kind of a covenantal relationship of saying, hey, I trust you. I'm with you. Who needs to hear you say that? Let's say it together again. I trust you. Okay, the next one. Let's say it. I need you. Say it. I need you. So many of us, we never want to admit to anybody that we need anybody or anything, that we feel weak and dependent. But I'm telling you, when you're on the receiving end of hearing this, it means a lot. Not so very long ago, I was in not a really good way. Some things were messed up in community, and they weren't going so great, and I'm leading things, and people are coming to me and telling us how we're messing up, and and after hearing it again and again and again, I began to have this thought, what's the use? I probably shouldn't even be doing this because, other jobs, when you go to other jobs, people might tell you you're wrong, but very seldom do people come in and tell you they're wrong, that you're wrong, that you wounded them, and that somehow you failed God while you were doing it. And I'm thinking to myself, who needs it? Who needs this? Who needs to do this with their life? And right in the middle of that, a friend of mine calls me sort of out of the blue, and I still don't know whether somebody told the friend what was going on with me, or they just noticed, or God prompted them, or what. But he called and he said, "Hey, I need to come down and sit down and talk to you face to face." And I thought in my head, okay, all right, come on. Tell me how we screwed up. Tell me how I failed you. Tell me how I wounded you. Tell me where I'm off track. Give it to me. Unload on me. Let me have it. Tell me where we're wrong. And so we set up the time, and he comes in, and he sits down, and we talk for just a moment, and then he says, "Hey, if you wind up leaving community, Christian, you're going to be okay. I know you can make a living. I know you can do other things. And probably the church will be okay as well. But you need to know, I need this church. And I need you to be pastor of this church. It won't be true forever, but I need you to be my pastor right now." When he said those words to me, it rocked me. It changed me a little bit. It emboldened me a little bit. Who do you need to say that to? Hey, I need you. I really need you. Let's say that together. I need you. How about this one? I'm proud of you. Say it. I'm proud of you. See, I think this is probably one that I've used more than any other phrase. I often try to say to my wife, my wife, she and a team that she leads, they write the curriculum around here. She loves children and students. She loves to see them find out about the love that Jesus has for them. And I watch her work with people and care about people. I watch her breathe life into students. She loves students so much. I just try to say to her, "Becky, I am so proud of you. So proud of what you've made your life about. John, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the man you've become. Nathan, I'm so proud of what you do and what you're doing with your life and how you're using your life. Benjamin, I'm proud of you." Who needs to hear you say to them, "Hey, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you're doing. I'm proud of what you become. I'm proud of the values you hold. I'm proud of you." Say it one more time. I'm proud of you. Who needs to hear that one from you? You can just say it. Next, I respect you. Say it. I respect you. I often say this to people. This one for me gets said in situations where we're trying to work out details, or we're leading something together, or we're working on something and we disagree on something. A number of times I've just stopped in the middle of it and I've said to people, "Hey, I know that we're butting heads a little bit here and we're trying, but you need to know, I respect you. I respect what you say, and that's why we're working so hard on this. I'm convinced we're going to get to common ground. We're going to figure this out, and it's all going to be okay. But more than anything, I want you to know, I respect you." It changes a lot when you say that to people. Who needs to hear that from you? And then the final one. 3 most powerful words in our language. I love you. Say that. I love you. These words really do change the human heart. And God knows it. God, throughout His Bible, continually says to human beings, to anybody who would pick it up and begin to read it, "Hey, I love you. No matter what you've done, no matter where you've gone, no matter how far you've run, I love you. You can always come home to me," God says. I love you. Who needs to hear you say that? Not who do you feel it for. You feel it for a lot of people. But who needs to hear you say, I love you? It would change a lot if you just say it. Words are powerful things. And if we use them correctly with great wisdom, they change a lot. Let your words be few. Let them be true. Let them be gentle. Let them be life-giving. Now, could I direct your attention back to the connection card for just a moment? Every week we tell you that we want you to fill this out individually, and on the back of it there are next steps, and Jason and I ask you to take next steps, and we ask you to do it individually because the next steps you take with God are steps you take individually, and we just want to know about them and pray about them. So if you're a regular attender, could you go ahead and begin to fill that out while I talk for just a second to people who are visiting with us today? Hey, if you're our guest, can I just say to you how thankful we are that you decided to come and be a part of this service today. And I get why filling this card out might seem strange to you and you might not be comfortable doing it. We are completely okay with that. We're so thankful you came, and we hope maybe a next step will be that you'll come back and you'll continue to pursue your relationship with God. We don't believe you're here by accident, and we hope you'll just take that next step. But if you feel okay with it, we'd love to know that you were here, and you can just take that and fold it and put it in the offering today. And we have a gift for you for being here. When you leave, you can just walk out to the information area, and we have a book called God Enter Stage Left that talks about how the Bible works together, and it sort of explains it as a story, and I think it'll be helpful to you in your spiritual life. And you can just go out there and pick one up. You don't have to say anything to anybody. We really are thankful you came. If you feel comfortable, put that card in the offering, and you don't have to put anything else in there. This service is our gift to you. The offering's really for people who consider this their church home. So, could I now say to those of you who do consider this your church home and you're a follower of Christ, could I challenge you to now take a next step? Maybe your next step today is that you just need to get that into your head of what words and how to use them better. They need to be few, they need to be true, they need to be gentle, they need to be life-giving. Or maybe you need to begin to memorize one of these scriptures that we talked about today. Or maybe a next step for you is that you were prompted by God as we were giving those life-giving words of something you need to say to somebody. Would you commit to do that? I hope all of us who are Christ followers and part of Community Christian, we're going to use our words really well, and on the 26th of October, we're going to invite people who are not yet connected to Christ to come and be a part of what happens that day, to come and see what God is doing. You take your next step, check it on that card, and we'll pray for you on that. Fold it and put it in the offering in just a few minutes when that happens. Now, I'm going to pray in just a few moments, but that's not the end of the message. Instead, as I ramp up to prayer, I just want to explain to you what's going to happen. When I finish praying, it won't be the end of the message, so don't leave, don't rustle around. Instead, our musicians have some words that we want to sing to you that we believe God wants to say. We hope will be sort of a commitment for you. And then there's some words we want you to hear on video, and I hope you'll just stick around, sit real still for a few minutes. It won't be very long. And allow us to lead you in that. Before we go into that, let me pray, and then we'll enter into that time together. God, thank you for the words you say to us, that you say, through Jesus we can be called sons and daughters of God. That you love us. That we are your beloved children. The beloved sons and daughters of the Most High God. God, thank you for this little book of Proverbs and the wisdom it gives us of how to use words. God, help us to remember to use our words wisely. Let them be few. Let the words that come out of our mouth be true. God, help us not to go around lobbing grenades. Instead, let us be gentle, and let us breathe life into people with life-giving words. God, thank you for the words that you've given to us, words that breathe life and hope into us as we find out about Jesus. Help us to be the people you want us to be. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.